Hi guys, welcome to The Drop. I'm Maha. Today we're discussing the universally acclaimed drama series Chernobyl, the dark tale that depicts the 1986 nuclear explosion. I have Davar and Halima with me. Hi guys.
Hi Maha.
So guys, this drama, the writers have taken a first-hand account of Soviet Ukraine survivors. What did you think of the series?
So my first, I would say, historical information gathering experience from an actual television show would have been a similar show which is called The Russians, and it's basically based on a similar set of people who act and behave like a Soviet spy. But this drama particularly grappled my attention because it describes it in such a deep way. It humanizes it as well as it describes the dangers of nuclear power and when things can go wrong. And surprisingly, just 5 episodes, and all of those episodes were rated above 9.5, 9.0 at the highest rated television show on IMDb. And that tells you that it wasn't just something that was acclaimed by, I would say, critics, but fans similarly related to it a lot. So that's my...
It was probably the one show that I loved, but I just wanted it to end, man. I just wanted the show to end because it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I think it sort of challenged everything I knew about Chernobyl. I knew that this happened, and I knew it was bad. I knew there was a sarcophagus that was built around the power plant, but I didn't know about the chain of events that was set off after the explosion happened. And I didn't know how many people were so close by in the vicinity. It challenged everything I knew about this, and there were so many moments in the show I had to pause and be like, wow, this had never happened on this planet. And these people don't know what they're doing. They have no idea, but millions of lives will be affected. There were so many times I had to pause the show and be like, wow, this is not, what I'm seeing in front of me is not real.
Yeah.
The acting, the production design, the way the writers wrote the story, it was brilliant.
Can I just jut in and say that this was, like you were saying, 5 episodes long. Game of Thrones should have learned from this, I think. The way that it flowed, it was very informative, and we are not nuclear scientists, right? So I mean, was it easy to understand for you guys? I mean, the science behind it all?
Well, starting for example, the whole idea of an RBMK reactor. So this was a reactor that was certainly very different from, I'm assuming, that what the Europeans were doing or what the US was doing, because repeatedly they kept on saying that this is our design and the Soviets built this. So this differentiation itself, that nuclear reactors all over the world are different, they operate differently, the fail-safes are different, the process is different. So that was very informative. And in the final episode, when he is explaining how there are certain procedures which increase the output, and then there are certain things that control the nuclear reaction. So that is very, very informative for any person because it simplifies into 1 plus 2 plus simple additions. And then we can realize that what happens when all the fail-safes are removed.
I don't think I ever fully understood. I know this is embarrassing, but I never fully understood what nuclear fission was or how a nuclear reactor worked till I saw this show. And I think I have to give props.
I'm the same.
I think you have to give props to the writers, because as someone who has a background in science education, I know it's so difficult for a scientist to explain complicated things in a layman's terminology, and to do it in a TV show, in a narrative, and then to have people understand it. I understood what they were talking about. I think
they did a good job.
That's props to the writers.
So some of the scenes were very harrowing, some very disturbing. Which left the most impact on you guys?
I would say when they show this shot that all the leftover fireman clothes in the hospital basement. So at the end they tell us that they're still lying over there. So that tells you that life for millions of people had to be paused, and it's still paused.
Yeah.
People cannot return there. So that's very, very, I would say, shocking, harrowing, and a lesson for all of us to learn.
Very disturbing as well, right?
I think every scene, I know this might sound like an exaggeration for people who haven't seen the show. Every scene left an impact on me. I think it was also the after I saw the show, right, I went on Twitter and I was reading these threads from people who did live in the Soviet Union at that time, and they said from very small details to like, how the cars were, how the design of the city was, to the cutlery, to the clothes they were wearing, the way their hair was. It was so accurate. And I was listening to the podcast where the writer said that when they had the initial drafts, they made people who are survivors of the incident. They made them read their drafts, and there was one woman who commented on every little thing, and there was something very interesting he said. He said that in the initial scene, when he's pouring cat food for his cats before something happens. And the writer was saying that the woman said, we didn't have pet food, we just gave them the food that we cooked. So they
Small
slaved
details
over small details. And something really interesting, they said that when they were they pored over pictures and blueprints, and they found cities in Lithuania, present-day Lithuania, which had the same blueprints as the city of Pripyat, and they found a neighborhood that was quite similar, and that became their Pripyat. It had similar tower blocks, similar roads. So I think they really, really put in a lot of effort to make it as close to what life behind the Iron Curtain was like. I don't know if you know what the Iron Curtain is.
I'm gonna ask you one more. Actually, I'm gonna tell you one more thing before going. Did you know Instagrammers are now visiting the site to take pictures, gain popularity? I mean, what do you think about that before we wrap up?
I would say that all of them need a mental checkup. The last popular culture item in Chernobyl was, I think, when Call of Duty Modern Warfare designed a mission and you had this character going into Chernobyl to extract some information. So all of these guys now going there in person, this is completely mental.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if you're okay for if you're up for absorbing
Radiation.
some radiation.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
A little bit of radiation poisoning here and there.
That's fine. If you want to do that for a few likes,
Then go ahead.
go ahead.
Thank you guys for coming today.
Oh, thank you for having us, Mom.
That's all for today. Stay tuned for next time. You were watching The Drop.